Yo, what's going on there, YouTube? So I'm in a Ford Excursion, I think it's called right now. Big old SUV. I'm on a road trip for work, short road trip, just a day trip really. But I had to rent a vehicle, and I'm in one of these things. I gotta admit, I like Mopar, but this thing ain't bad, man. It rides pretty nice, even on a crappy rainy day like today. Anyway, guys, I want to share with you something. In some recent videos I have posted related to the search for the used Hellcat, I've gotten some comments regarding the prospect of searching for cars in other states, going across state lines in the search for a vehicle, whether new or used. And some folks have had some questions, I think, that are very reasonable questions. But overall, I notice there's a lot of apprehension. Just the idea of buying something, or not buying something, but maybe kind of making a commitment to buying something, a car that you haven't yet had the opportunity to check out in person, let alone like test drive or what have you. And I totally understand that. I totally get that. I myself was had a lot of apprehension until I actually went ahead and did it. And there's a little story here I want to share with you, and I've actually been trying to think about when would be the best way to share this story with you guys, because this is a really exciting time for me. Back when I made a particular purchase, and it involves going not just across state lines, but going many miles away to purchase a car that I was really on an active hunt for. Now, back 4 years ago, I guess, was it 2014, I was on the search for a used green with Envy SRT8 Challenger, right? Now, those of you who know your Challengers know the green with Envy, because it was a real rarity, okay? This was a color that they only offered on the Challenger, and they only offered for 1 year, and they only offered on the RT Classic and on the SRT8. That was it. You couldn't get an RT Plus. You could not get it in the SXT. Green with Envy was only offered as an SRT8 and an RT Classic, which means that they didn't make many of them at all. I forget exactly what the numbers were, but I believe as far as the SRT8s go, there were only like 800 something of them that were made, and like about only half of that were 6-speed manual. So for me, it was a pretty rare car to try and find out there in the used market for a price that I wanted to pay. Now, just like right now where I'm going online all the time and I'm looking for used Hellcats across the country, I was on the hunt for a used SRT8 green with Envy. One that would be in my price range. And just like right now, I've got a certain price range in my mind and a certain range of miles and things like that for a used Hellcat. Back then, I too was doing the same thing, but even more so because the car was very rare. And when I would find one, typically I would find a garage queen that had very few miles on it that was going for top dollar. And my goal was really to find one at a price that was comparable to what I was currently paying with an RT Plus. So I had a 2013 RT Plus, 6-speed manual, wasn't fully loaded, didn't have a sunroof, didn't have navigation. But it was a nice car though, and I liked it. But I did really like the green with Envy, and I figured, hey, you know what, man? If I'm a trade up, even if it is a slightly older car. Get the SRT8. I'm not going to trade for another RT just for the color, right? So anyway, I'm on the hunt every night, looking, and as I was searching, I would see occasionally cars that were just way overpriced. And there was one I remember seeing that honestly would make me laugh. When I would see it, it was like, oh yeah, there it is again, night after night. I would kind of chuckle to myself because here was a car that had something like 60,000 miles on it, and they were asking $40,000 for it. That was pretty much top dollar for a green with Envy SRT8 at the time, with low miles. let alone with 60,000 miles on it. So every time I would see this thing, like night after night or whatever, I would see it, I would just kind of blow right past it and say, that thing's ridiculous, man. Now, if the thing was $30,000, you know, hey, you've got a decision to make here, right? But for 40 grand, why would you do that when for the same money, you know, I mean, you could pay, or you could get one that's got, you know, 5,000 miles on it. So anyway, one day comes, and this is going on for months, guys, right? I'm looking, and I'm really not finding anything that is in my price range. And the few that I do find that kind of are, they're like on the other side of the country, or they're an automatic, or, you know, the thing was in an accident or something, you know, and you know how it is, man. It was just like hard to find what you want for the price you want. So one day, it's like a Friday afternoon or whatever it is, and I'm finished with work, and I remember very clearly it was the summer, and I cracked open a beer, and I remember like, yeah, you know, let me go ahead and start looking now instead of waiting till tonight. And you know, I'm sipping my beer, and I see that there's that listing again for this car that is being offered for $40,000. And just as a goof, I don't even know why I decided to click on it, but just as like, you know, I guess because I clicked on all the other ones 100 times before, I figured, let me just click on this thing, what the hell, right? So I click on it, and it's this dealership way up in New York, right? And I live in North Carolina. So I click on it, and I'm like, oh yeah, and I'm just kind of chuckling to myself, like, what the hell do these people think? And they show a picture of the odometer, and sure enough, 60,000 miles. Who in their right mind would pay that kind of money for this? So I click on, you know, in Car Gurus, they have a little link, you know, you can click on and look at the dealer's inventory. You know, you go to their website. So I click on the dealership link, and I go and I see their other used inventory. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, let's see what other like great deals they have there, you know. So I look on there, and I'm actually kind of surprised because I say, wait a minute, the prices on this website are actually pretty reasonable. In fact, some of them are actually pretty good prices. And then I see there's another SRT8 Challenger that they have there, and it's got fewer miles than this one, than this green with Envy. It's not green with Envy, it's a different color, but it's got fewer miles, and it's a year newer. It's a 2012. And I'm looking at the price, and they're asking, I forget what the price exactly was, but maybe it was like 37 or something, right? And then it dawns on me, there's something up here with this, with the price on this green with Envy here, man, because the green with Envy is a 2011, and it's got 60,000 miles. And here right next to it in the listing is another SRT8, and it's only got like 30,000 miles, and the thing is like $3,000 less than the one with going for 40,000. So it dawns on me, and I go, dude, they must have freaking listed this thing for the wrong price, right? I mean, what else? Everything else is a reasonable price. And here is a comp. I mean, granted, it's not an apples for apples comp, but it's actually, you know, it's a year newer, and it's got half of the miles. Why is it $3,000 less than this green with Envy? And I'm reading through the description of the green with Envy. Everything is just like pretty friggin' normal. All the pictures, everything there is fine. The other SRT8 wasn't in an accident or anything. I mean, the Carfax and stuff looks fine. So I, at that moment, am convinced, dude, this is a typo. This is amazing. You've been looking at this car every day for months. It's on the high end of the mileage that I want, right? I mean, 60,000 miles, you know, I really don't want that. But it's the car I want. But if this really isn't the real price, I at least want to know what the price is for this thing, right? So I click on the link, you know, inquire about this car. So I'm like, well, let me click on it, you know, whatever. And I don't really think much about it because, let's face it, guys, any of you have ever clicked on those links to inquire about a car, it's a gamble. Well, it's not a gamble, but, you know, you got about a 50-50 shot of somebody actually reaching back to you, you know, within a couple of days. I've had plenty that I have reached out to who have not bothered to get back to me, not even in like an auto-generated, you know, reply message or anything like that. So I'm thinking, well, whatever. And I'm thinking, hey, man, if these people don't have it well enough to put the right price on the freaking website, they're certainly not going to be organized well enough to, like, reach back out to me, right? Well, I was wrong. So about 5 minutes later, if it even was that, my phone rings. So I pick it up, and it's a nice lady there. And she tells me, yeah, I see you inquired about this Challenger and da-da-da, and I'm just calling you up. And I start to, I ask her, I was like, yeah, I just want to confirm the price of this vehicle here. You have this listed as $40,000. And she's looking at it, and she's like, yeah, that's right. And I was like, well, let me ask you, is there a possibility, can you confirm that price? Is there a possibility that that's a typo and you guys put up the wrong price? And she holds for a split second, and she was like, no. She's like, no, this is what the price of the car is. So I was like, okay, well, let me tell you what I'm observing here. And so I tell her what I'm noticing. I'm looking at the comps, everything else, and I was like, compare this to the 2012 SRT8 that you have there. And she goes, sir, I'm going to have to give you a call back. Let me look into this, right? Now, about not even 5 minutes later, maybe 3 minutes later, the phone rings again. Who is it? But it's the sales manager there at this dealership. And he seems like a good enough guy, calls me back quick enough. And he's like, hey, sir, thanks so much for reaching out about this. And I understand you had a question about the pricing of it. And he goes, yeah, actually, there is he's like, I understand why you're confused, but it's actually not the listed price. And I'm like, okay, well, what is the problem? Don't leave me in suspense here. What is the issue? Why, what is the, tell me. So he goes, well, we have a supercharger that we're planning on putting on the car. And what actually should be in the listing is that the car is $40,000, but it's not stock. We're putting, a $7,000 Whipple on it. So I'm going, oh, but you haven't put it on yet, though. And he's like, no, we haven't, sir. He goes, let me ask you, you'd be interested in the car without it? And I said, well, I should be interested in knowing what price you guys are asking, because if you guys are factoring in the price of a Whipple on this 392 and there ain't no Whipple on it for 40 grand, all right, let's see, work down here, let's see where we're at. So little did I know that just by the simple act of me reaching out and asking for a price to be confirmed, little did I know that the information that was contained on the website was not accurate. Now, turns out it wasn't the pricing, it was the addition of the supercharger, but still, I would have never had known that if I didn't call, right? And so this is a little lesson here, guys. Just, one of the key takeaways I'm hoping you can take here from this little story is if you see something online and it doesn't look right, especially if it looks absurd, of course, you want to read through everything really carefully, the description, you want to look at the photos really carefully, you want to make sure there are no, major upgrades or anything like that. Same thing also works true for the opposite, I'm looking and seeing on some websites there are Hellcats that are listed, I think it is it True Car? I can't remember what, or iccars.com, is that the name of it? Where they have some like Hellcats listed for like 20 grand, and you're like, yeah, right, what's wrong with this thing? And they give you like no information about it. But anyway, you never know until you inquire, until you reach out to them and you actually find out, what's the deal with the price, because this price seems ridiculous, So anyway, what winds up happening with this car, it winds up being an interesting story. So guy winds up telling me, asking me, what am I interested in trading in, if I want to do that and this and that. And I'm explaining, I was like, look, man, I'm dad. At that point, I lived in Charlotte. And I was like, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am like 850 miles away from you, bro. Okay? I have been looking for this car for a reasonable price. I don't need a garage queen. I don't need something with only, 200 miles on it. I'm okay with getting something that's got higher miles on it. Yours is a little higher than what I would be comfortable with. But I'll tell you what, though, man, I'd be really interested, if the price is right, you got my attention. So he winds up shooting me a number, and I forget exactly where it was, but it was basically like 34 and some change for the car. And I kind of pitched back to him, and I'm like, 34, it's got 60,000 miles on it, man, I don't know. And he's like, well, let me tell you what, man, you're going to be doing a trade-in? I was like, yeah, I would be, but I'm like, I live freaking 800 miles away from you. How are we going to do this? How are you going to appraise it? And he's like, look, let me worry about that. You take as many pictures as you can of the car, any blemishes, any issues with it, you take a picture of it, send me a picture of the odometer right now. Can you get these to me today? Like now? Can you go outside and do this now and send them right to me? So I'm like, sure. Like, car's not clean. It was one of the few days where I actually didn't wash it, like it rained the day before or whatever. So he's like, we don't care. So the car is absolutely perfect. The only thing wrong with my RT at that time was some soulless piece of crap gave me like the worst door ding right on the body line, right on my door. And I had gotten it appraised, and you couldn't do a PDR on it. It was actually body work would be required, and the low estimate that I got was $400 to fix this thing, okay? So I told them up front, I was like, thing's got a door ding, man, and I'll take a picture of it. And I took a couple pictures of it, and that was part of it. But basically everything else, boom, here it is, man. It's got 15,000 some change miles on it. By the time I get to you, it's going to be 16,000, up 800 miles up there. So they wind up offering me what at the time was actually a good price for the car. It's funny because I'd actually gotten it appraised locally at a couple of places, and they were actually $1,000 higher than the next best one I had gotten. So I'm thinking, hey man, this ain't bad. Like, even if I have to drive this thing up here, I mean, $1,000 is $1,000, right? So they like my car. They see the pictures, and the sales manager's like, hey, we like your car, and here's what we'd be willing to offer you for it, provided there's, you're being truthful with what you're showing us here, and I absolutely was. And he's like, let's figure out the price on this SRT8 you want. So at the time, I'm getting ready to go on vacation, man, okay? And not like a big vacation. We were doing like a long weekend on Isle of Palms. And any of you who don't know South Carolina, you may not be familiar with this. Isle of Palms is a barrier island that is north of Charleston, South Carolina. Okay, beautiful, beautiful city. And Isle of Palms is just this beautiful little oasis. There are no commercial hotels or eateries or anything like that on there. It is all mom and pops. It is all it's just a great place to go. And we used to go there all the time. I take the wife and the kids there all the time. So anyway, we were getting ready to go there. And so I'm letting him know, I'm like, well, we can do it, but I'm going on vacation here, So we're emailing and stuff back and forth over the course of the next couple of days. And so they offer me, first begin with 34 and some change. They wind up dropping it to about 30, I think it was like 33.1 or something like that. And yet keeping my car at the price what they were going to offer me for my RT. And I believe they were offering me, I think they gave me 26 for the RT is what they were offering. And again, the best I had gotten in my area at that time as far as an appraisal goes was 25, and as low as 22 at one place. So anyway, I go to Isle of Palms, and I'm there with my family, and I'm driving. I could tell my wife was not happy with me because I'm constantly checking my email, and I'm just like, I'm like just running on adrenaline, man. I can't sleep at night. I'm constantly checking my email because I'm like wondering, is this deal going to wind up happening? Are we going to get to where we need to be? Because where I needed to be was, I'll tell you guys right now, where I needed to be with this car was, I need to be under 31. That's what I want, man. I want to be under $31,000 for this car. For me, if I can do that, that's where I'll be happy, because 31 is what I paid for my RT. All right, so that's what I was looking at. So anyway, they get back to me with like 33.1 or something like that, and blah 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 blah. And I was real, I just kind of laid it down, and as I'm there at the beach, I remember very clearly, and I was saying to him, I was like, look, man, here's the deal. I'm a little hung up on the miles. The picture of the cars and everything looks really great. A single owner, but it is a little high on the miles. But I do like the car, and I'm going to break it down for you like this, man. I will cut my vacations short, piss off my wife and my kids, pack in the car, drive back to Charlotte, get my car back in a stock condition, which at that time really meant I had doing a few things to it, switching out the wheels and a couple other minor things that would be pretty quick. And I will drive overnight to your dealership up in New York, 800 something miles, if you can give me a really great price on this car. Really great price on this car, man. And you give me what you say you'll give me for my RT. He's like, okay. So that was like dinner time one day. That night I can't sleep, bro. Okay? That night I am like, dude. Guy winds up calling me up. He goes, all right, I got a price for you, sir. This is our final offer. We'll give you $26 for your car as we promised. Price for the SRT8, $30,400. Done, bro. Done. I said, honey, kids, we're packing up. We're packing up a little early. It actually wasn't that early. We kind of cut out half day as opposed to leaving that night. Anyway, we drove 3 hours back to Charlotte. I tried to nap in the car while my wife was driving. I get back. It's a hot-ass day. I'm there in the driveway switching out my cars, switching off my tires, doing what I got to do. I get on the phone with the dealership one last time before I leave. And we were talking about financing. And the financing was fine and all that. I have very good credit, and I agreed to do the financing with them if they could do me at a certain rate, and they agreed to it, so that all worked out fine. And I'm looking at my car out in the driveway, and I'm getting ready to leave. And I remember saying to the guy on the phone, I was like, all right, man, look, I just drove home from vacation early. I just got my car back in stock condition. I'm about to go drive 800 miles overnight to your dealership to do this deal. If this SRT8 is not exactly what you told me it was, my man, you are going to have one tired, one very pissed off son of a bitch in your showroom, dude. I'm just letting you know right now, man, this thing better be as you said it, as you say it is, man. The guy goes, sir, you're going to be very happy with the car, I guarantee it. I go, all right, man. I get a change of clothes, I get some waters and stuff for the road, and I hit it. I leave at 4:30 in the afternoon. I'm driving. I'm not going to spare you all the details, man, of the ride up there. I drove until 3:30 in the morning, man. I drove 11 friggin' hours, only stopping for gas and for a quick bite to eat at the coldest friggin' McDonald's on the planet. I've never been in a McDonald's or any place with air conditioning so cold before in my life that wasn't a walk-in freezer. I literally could see my breath sitting there eating my burger. Anyway, I'd stopped at 3:30 in a parking deck. I tried to sleep in the car for a couple of hours, and then I went ahead and continued the final 2.5 hours up there. I pulled over. Right before I got there, I changed my clothes. I pull into the car dealership. I get out, I look at my car, my RT that I drove up there, and it looks awful. I hit every damn mosquito and night bug you could imagine between Charlotte, North Carolina and Albany, New York. It looked awful. I was embarrassed. But still, I was so tired and so wired and so excited to see this car, I didn't give a damn. I go in, I meet the manager there. I apologize for my car. He's like, oh, no problem, man. You drove a long way. Appreciate you doing it. These guys, they're just finishing up your car right now, man, detailing it for you. And I walk in the bay there, and they got my car there all detailing up, man. They're just finishing up with the finishing rags, and it looked freaking unbelievable, man. It looked unbelievable. That green with Envy, man. If you've never seen it in person, it it doesn't do justice to describe it. It's got two different kinds of flake in it. It blows up when the sunshine hits it, man. It looks like it's electric. It's an absolutely fascinating color, man. I got it, did a test drive. I checked it out inside and out, man. And I could not have been happier with the car, man. It was really, the interior, not a freaking thing wrong with it, man. I mean, outside, there were a couple little road chips, things like that. With 60,000 miles, what do you expect, right? But the thing was absolutely great. We went ahead, we signed off on the paperwork, man. I was out of there by 11 o'clock in the morning. I was running on pure adrenaline, man. Pure adrenaline. That thing, I was so not used to the power in that 392, man. I almost spun out going through a toll plaza. After I threw my money and I floored it, I almost freaking spun around. It was great. I made it till about 5 o'clock before I was so tired, I started drifting off of the road. This is in September, so it's plenty of daylight, but I was exhausted, man. I remember I did a little power nap in a gas station parking lot. I woke up refreshed, and I got back on that road. And I had a goal to try to make it back home, safe and sound, by midnight. I think it was about 10 o'clock at night that I had to pull over, and I had to get myself the biggest Coke soda that I could find and smack myself around the head about a dozen times to keep myself up. I had gotten so tired, guys, that I was hallucinating while I was driving. And I'll tell you, man, it's one thing to drive when you're tired. It's another thing to drive and you're actually hallucinating. I was envisioning, I was seeing skid marks going off. Imagine you're driving in the left-hand lane of a highway, and imagine seeing skid marks going off of the side of the road to the left. I kept seeing them over and over again. And then I would smack myself in the head and they'd go away. And then a few minutes later, I'd get tired again, I'd start seeing them again. That was scary, man. That was, I say, God's way of telling me, dude, you need to friggin' pull over because you're about to die. This is what's going to happen to you. You're about to fall asleep and die. So I did stop and recoup a bit. I wound up making it home, I think 10 minutes to midnight that night. I was so freaking exhausted, I could barely walk into the house. I was so tired. I didn't even make it to bed, man. I just went to the couch and I fell asleep. But I was so excited, and I was so just amped to show my little 4-year-old son the new car, because that was his favorite one. He had no idea where I was going and what I was getting. I was so excited to surprise him in the morning that at 6 o'clock that next morning I was up, and I woke him up and I gave him the surprise of his life at that time. We opened up the garage door and he saw that green with Envy SRT8 sitting right there, and it was just an amazing feeling, man. So, and the only regret I have with that car right now is I should not have pushed myself to the limit like that. I'm thankful to God that I made it back safely. And I'll be honest, I have regrets every now and then that I got rid of the car. I got rid of it after 2 years. I drove it a lot, and it had just under 100,000 miles on it. And if you look on my channel, you'll see there's a bunch of videos of the car there. And I literally did not have a single problem with the car at all. I mean, nothing that wasn't a maintenance issue. I mean, but no problems with the car. The thing ran perfectly. And So people who are afraid of buying a used Challenger or used anything over a long distance, remember, if something looks too good to be true, make sure you find out what you can before you look at anything. If something looks absurdly expensive, unnecessarily, like way out of bounds, give them a call, man. Try to find out what's going on. There could be a mistake. Could be the price, or it could be something else. And in my case, it worked out really, really well. And then, of course, make sure if you're going to go to the trouble of going out of your way, make sure they know about it. They can offer you some leverage, man. These guys knew I was serious about the car. They knew, hey, man, if this guy is willing to do this, to leave vacation, to drive overnight, this guy's serious, man. Let's do it, man. Let's make a deal. And they did. And the dealership is called Denoyer Chevrolet. Yeah, it was a Chevy place. They actually specialize in getting a lot of used performance vehicles there. They have a great selection. Their sales team there was very good, was very fair, as I mentioned. And the guy's name is Dave. I think Dave Mattis is his name, is the sales manager. I think, pretty sure he's the sales manager. Thumbs up, man. Worked out really, really well. So anyway, guys, that's the story. It's raining right now. Speaking of safe driving, I'm going to jump off of this thing. It's getting a little crazy out here, so I'm going to jump off. So hit me up with any questions, comments you might have. And that's about it. Until next time, guys.